What would you do if your entire life turned out to be a lie? Could you handle the truth if the person you love had a secret that could destroy everything? In this true crime case, we reveal the horrifying story of a husband who discovers a shocking truth about his wife, one that ends in a brutal, grisly murder. In Houston, Texas, a newlywed husband uncovered a secret so dark, so devastating, that it led to one of the most gruesome crimes the city had ever seen. This isn't just a story about a hidden past or broken trust. It's about a marriage that spiraled into pure horror, shocking even the most hardened detectives. The secret was deadly, and when it came out, it tore lives apart in the most brutal way. On the outside, Marcus Johnson and Ebony Davis appeared to be a picture-perfect couple. Their love story was one straight out of a romance novel, the kind that friends envy and strangers admire. Both Marcus and Ebony were Black Americans from the vibrant city of Houston, Texas, where they first met at a community event organized by their local church. Marcus, a tall, muscular man with a rugged charm, was a 32-year-old construction worker with deep ties to his family and community. Raised in a strict, conservative household, Marcus grew up with strong values and a sense of pride in being a provider. He was known for his hard work and dedication, a man who had his life together. His friends often joked that Marcus was the kind of guy who would take care of everyone before thinking of himself. He was a protector, someone who held traditional values close to his heart, especially when it came to marriage. Ebony, on the other hand, was stunningly beautiful. At 28, she was the kind of woman who turned heads wherever she went. Tall, with a glowing brown complexion, captivating dark eyes, and an infectious smile. She worked as a hairstylist, building a name for herself in the local beauty scene. People admired her confidence and charm, but what drew most people to Ebony was her warmth and charisma. She had a way of making everyone feel special, and it wasn't long before Marcus was drawn to her like a magnet. Their courtship was quick but intense. Friends and family were surprised at how fast things moved between them. Within months of their first meeting, Marcus was bringing Ebony to every family gathering, proudly showing her off as the one. She fit seamlessly into his life, quickly winning over his mother, siblings, and close friends. Marcus himself had fallen fast and hard, so much so that within a year, he proposed. Ebony, with tears in her eyes, said yes without hesitation. To the outside world, it seemed like they were living a fairy tale. But beneath the surface, cracks were starting to form. Cracks that Marcus couldn't see but would later become impossible to ignore. Their wedding day was a dream come true for both of them. Held in the historic Houston Baptist Church, it was a grand affair attended by over 200 guests. The ceremony was perfect. Marcus stood at the altar, his heart racing as he watched Ebony glide down the aisle in a shimmering white gown. She looked like a goddess. Marcus couldn't help but think how lucky he was to have found such a beautiful and loving woman. But even on their wedding day, there were subtle hints of unease, things Marcus brushed aside in the excitement of the moment. Ebony seemed distant at times, her gaze lingering in the distance, lost in thought. When they exchanged vows, Marcus noticed her hands trembling ever so slightly. He chalked it up to wedding day nerves, but there was something else there. Something that felt off. Their honeymoon was equally luxurious. Marcus spared no expense, whisking Ebony away to the Caribbean for 2 weeks of sun, sand, and endless romance. Yet despite the beauty of their surroundings, Marcus felt something was holding Ebony back. She would occasionally withdraw, become quiet, and her eyes would take on a distant look, as if she were wrestling with something deep within. When Marcus pressed her about what was bothering her, she'd quickly brush it off, blaming it on stress or homesickness. "Don't worry about me, baby," she'd say, wrapping her arms around him and giving him the kind of smile that could melt his heart. But Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that there was something Ebony wasn't telling him. After the honeymoon, life moved forward as any newlywed couple would expect. They settled into their small but cozy home on the outskirts of Houston, a quiet neighborhood that offered them the privacy they craved. On weekends, Marcus worked around the house, fixing up the yard, while Ebony focused on growing her beauty business. It was the kind of life Marcus had always dreamed of. He had the perfect wife, a comfortable home, and a future that looked bright. But as the weeks turned into months, the unease in their relationship grew. Marcus began to notice subtle changes in Ebony's behavior. She became more secretive, locking her phone whenever Marcus was around and disappearing for hours at a time without explanation. She started working late, claiming she had more clients. But when Marcus dropped by the salon to surprise her, he would often find it empty. The excuses became frequent: meetings with friends he'd never heard of, phone calls she would take in hushed tones. Marcus's suspicions grew, but he didn't want to believe something was wrong. He loved Ebony deeply, and the thought of her keeping something from him felt like a knife twisting in his gut. He convinced himself that he was overthinking it, that the stresses of married life was simply catching up to them. After all, no relationship is perfect, right? But the tension only increased. Intimacy became less frequent, and when it did happen, it felt strained. Ebony would turn away after refusing to look Marcus in the eyes. She often seemed on the verge of saying something, her lips parting as if to reveal a truth she couldn't bring herself to share. It wasn't until one fateful night that everything unraveled. Marcus had always been the type to respect Ebony's privacy, but his growing doubts led him to do something he never thought he would. He decided to search through her things while Ebony was out with friends. Marcus rifled through her drawers, looking for something, anything, to explain the growing distance between them. That's when he found it. A small box hidden in the back of the closet, tucked away under piles of old clothes. Inside, he discovered documents that made his blood run cold. There, among various papers, was a birth certificate bearing a name Marcus had never seen before: Elijah Davis. Confused, he dug deeper and found medical records dating back years, records detailing Ebony's transition from male to female. Marcus's world stopped. He felt as though the air had been sucked out of the room. His hands trembled as the weight of the revelation crashed down on him. The woman he had married, the woman he had vowed to love and cherish, had kept this from him. Ebony had been born male, and she had never told him. For Marcus, it wasn't just a secret. It was a betrayal of everything he believed in, everything he thought their relationship had been built on. His mind raced with a mix of emotions: anger, confusion, heartbreak. How could she have hidden something so important from him? The person he thought he knew felt like a stranger. This discovery would prove to be the first domino in a chain of events that would end in unimaginable horror. What Marcus didn't know at that moment was that his feelings of betrayal and anger were about to spiral into something far darker, something violent and deadly. Marcus sat in stunned silence, staring at the documents spread across the bed. His mind raced with questions, but no answers seemed to come. How long had Ebony been hiding this? How could she have deceived him about something so fundamental? For hours, Marcus remained in the house alone, the quiet ticking of the clock on the wall only amplifying his growing rage and sense of betrayal. When Ebony finally returned home that evening, she was greeted by the sight of Marcus sitting on the edge of their bed, her most intimate secret laid out in plain view. The moment her eyes fell on the documents, her face drained of color. She froze in the doorway, her hand tightening on the doorknob as though she were preparing to run. "You lied to me." Marcus's voice was barely a whisper, trembling with rage. He stood slowly, holding the papers in his hand like evidence of a crime. "Who are you, Ebony? No, what are you?" Ebony's heart sank as the reality of the situation hit her. She had always known this day might come, the day when her past would catch up with her. But she never imagined it would happen like this. "I was going to tell you. I swear I was. But I didn't know how. I love you. This doesn't change who I am, who we are," she pleaded, stepping cautiously toward him, her eyes filling with tears. But her words only fueled the fire inside Marcus. "It doesn't change who you are. You've been lying to me this whole time, Ebony." His voice grew louder, more frantic. His mind struggled to process the shock. You tricked me into marrying you. Do you know what you've done? I gave you everything. My love, my loyalty, my life. And this whole time, you've been lying to me about the most basic thing, who you really are. Ebony's tears streamed down her face, but she held her ground, desperate to make him understand. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to lose you. Marcus, you mean everything to me. I thought if you knew, you wouldn't love me anymore. Marcus's face twisted in fury. You thought right. He spat the words with venom, his anger spiraling out of control. His mind was a whirlwind of betrayal, disgust, and confusion. The room seemed to close in on him. His once beloved wife now felt like a complete stranger. The argument grew more intense with every passing minute. Marcus's anger was like a live wire, unpredictable and volatile, while Ebony was trapped between trying to explain herself and fearing what Marcus might do next. She had never seen him like this, so out of control, so full of hate. As Marcus yelled, pacing back and forth across the room, Ebony's heart pounded in her chest. She could see the rage building inside him, and it terrified her. Marcus, please, just calm down. We can talk about this. I'll answer any questions you have. Just please don't do anything rash. But Marcus wasn't hearing her anymore. In his mind, everything he had built with her had been a lie, and he couldn't think straight. All he saw was red. His hands clenched into fists. His breath quickened. Calm down, he barked. You've been lying to me for years, and you want me to just calm down. In a blind moment of rage, Marcus stormed into the garage. His eyes landed on a hammer. Without hesitation, he grabbed it and returned to the house with chilling determination. As Ebony stood frozen in the bedroom, her eyes wide with fear, Marcus approached with the hammer in hand. Without warning, he swung the hammer down with brutal force. Ebony screamed, trying to shield herself, but Marcus was relentless. Blow after blow, he struck her with terrifying fury. Her cries for mercy were drowned out by his blind rage. The walls of their home were soon splattered with blood as Marcus continued the savage assault. The brutality of the attack was so severe that detectives later described it as one of the bloodiest crime scenes they had ever encountered. But Marcus didn't stop there. He dragged Ebony's lifeless body into the bathroom, his mind spiraling deeper into madness. Grabbing a knife from a kitchen drawer, the rage had taken full control. Now, any sense of humanity was gone. He began to mutilate her body, slashing and cutting with reckless abandon, disfiguring her beyond recognition. In a daze, Marcus grabbed his phone, his hand shaking as he dialed 911, the weight of what he had done settling in. I killed her, he whispered. When the operator answered, his voice was hollow, devoid of emotion. The operator tried to keep him on the line, asking for details, but Marcus could hardly form a coherent thought. All he knew was that his life was over. By the time the authorities arrived, Ebony's body was barely identifiable, her face and body marred by Marcus's unhinged brutality. When the police finally broke through the door, the scene they encountered was nothing short of a nightmare. Blood soaked the walls and floor, and in the middle of the room, Marcus sat covered in blood, staring blankly at the scene he had created. His expression was one of haunting disbelief and madness, as though he couldn't comprehend the horror he had just unleashed. When the police got to the bathroom, they found Marcus sitting on the floor beside Ebony's lifeless, mutilated body. His hands were covered in blood, and he seemed to have no intention of running. He was arrested on the spot. The charges against him were heinous: murder, mutilation of a body, and domestic violence. As the investigation unfolded, the details of the crime emerged, shocking everyone involved. Detective Angela Price, who had been on the force for over 15 years, said she had never seen anything like it. The brutality of this crime, it was personal. He wasn't just angry. He was consumed by rage, by betrayal. I can't even describe what it felt like to walk into that house and see what he had done. Marcus Johnson was charged with capital murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The case sent shockwaves through the community and sparked debates about trust, deception, and the destructive power of secrets. Ebony Davis's death became a tragic reminder of how devastating the truth can be when it is buried too deeply. And for Marcus, the woman he had loved so deeply was gone, but the ghost of her betrayal would haunt him for the rest of his life. This tragic tale of love, deception, and violence is a heart-wrenching reminder of the dangers of secrets, betrayal, and the fragility of relationships. What began as a whirlwind romance, full of hope and promise, ended in a horrific nightmare that would forever haunt the people involved. Marcus Johnson's life was shattered the moment he discovered the truth about his wife, Ebony Davis. The discovery of a hidden past ignited a fury within him that spiraled into an irreversible act of violence. For Ebony, a woman who had fought so hard to become who she was, it was the ultimate tragedy, her life ending in a way that no one could have predicted. As the news of the brutal crime spread through the community, the shocking details of Ebony's past and Marcus's violent outburst made headlines. The images of their once perfect life were now marred by an unimaginable tragedy. Friends and family members who had witnessed the love between the two were left reeling from the devastation. People who had known Marcus as a loving and devoted man couldn't reconcile the person they knew with the man who had committed such an unforgivable act. In the aftermath of the murder, Marcus was arrested and charged with capital murder. His trial was a media sensation, with the public divided between sympathy for the man betrayed by his wife and horror at the violence he had committed. The defense team argued that Marcus's actions were the result of a deep emotional shock, a reaction to the overwhelming sense of betrayal he felt after discovering Ebony's secret. However, the prosecution countered that no amount of emotional turmoil could justify the brutality of his actions. The jury deliberated for days before ultimately finding Marcus guilty of capital murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The case left an indelible mark on the Houston community, and the repercussions were felt far beyond the confines of the courtroom. Marcus's friends and family members struggled to come to terms with the man they thought they knew, while Ebony's loved ones mourned a tragic and untimely death. Both families were left to grapple with the devastating aftermath of a crime that could never be undone. In the years that followed, the story of Marcus and Ebony became a cautionary tale about the dangers of secrets, deception, and the fragile nature of trust. It served as a reminder that no matter how well you think you know someone, there can always be hidden truths that can tear everything apart. The tragedy also raised important questions about identity, acceptance, and the complexities of love. Could Marcus have ever truly accepted Ebony for who she was? Could their marriage have survived the revelation of her past? And most importantly, why did it all have to end in such horrific violence? As time passed, the story of Marcus and Ebony faded from the headlines, but the memory of the crime lingered in the hearts of those who had been affected by it. People in Houston, and across the country, were forced to confront the uncomfortable reality that love, no matter how passionate, could quickly turn into something far darker. The aftermath of the crime left many questioning the boundaries of forgiveness and the consequences of betrayal. For Marcus, the man who had once been a loving husband and provider, the rest of his life would be spent behind bars, haunted by the memory of what he had done. He would never again feel the warmth of Ebony's touch, hear the sound of her laughter, or see her beautiful face. His actions had destroyed everything that had once mattered to him, leaving him alone with the ghosts of his past. As for Ebony, her life was tragically cut short, leaving behind only memories of the woman she had been before the world found out her secret. Her friends and family would forever remember her as the vibrant, loving woman she was, not the victim of a brutal crime. Her life, although filled with struggles and pain, had been full of potential, dreams, and love. And in the end, it was the love she had fought so hard for that ultimately led to her tragic end. In closing, The story of Marcus Johnson and Ebony Davis is one that serves as a powerful reminder of the fragility of relationships and the dangers of hidden truths. It is a cautionary tale about the importance of honesty, trust, and communication in any relationship. Secrets, no matter how well-intentioned, can have devastating consequences. The true cost of betrayal is not just the loss of trust, but the potential for destruction that lies beneath the surface. And while love may be the foundation of any relationship, it is the honesty and openness between two people that can prevent it from crumbling under the weight of secrets. If you found this story as chilling and eye-opening as we did, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more true crime cases, investigative stories, and real-life mysteries that explore the darkest corners of the human experience. We invite you to engage with us in the comments section. Share your thoughts on the case, the choices made, and the heartbreaking consequences of this tragic story. Until next time, remember, the truth is out there. Sometimes, it's just hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.